Autumn, and this is the Bear All podcast. Today, I'm going to just. Today's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode that is just going to touch base on just the basic topic of staying resilient. And this word is truly so important to me because, well, I mean, I have it tattooed on my arm. I only have two tattoos and that was one of them, and I felt like um I got it because I wanted to continue to remind myself to always stay resilient and that I am truly resilient. It's the title of my book. It's something that I have used as a repeat thing in my head to remind me that, like, girl, you've been through so much. Life has not been easy. You've had so many struggles. You've had so many things that have gotten you to a point where I could have broken down and become somebody that I didn't want to be. And there have been many times where I have touched ground on places where I didn't want to be. But I have always found a way to pull myself out of that and continue to pursue my life and my creativity and push it in a direction that I'm like, I need to be proud of myself. I need to make that younger version of myself proud and happy, and I need to stay resilient. I'm actually going to pull up the definition of the word resilient because I feel like, well, um, all right, here we go. Of a person or animal, able to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions. If you listen to episode 1 and 2 of my podcast, then you're going to be able to learn a lot about me and sort of some of the stuff that I've been through. Now, I not only did I have to go through the whole trauma of my marriage and trying to figure out who I am all over again, but like deep dive into my childhood, which I'm not going to do that today, but I'm going to say that, like, going back to my childhood, that was not easy. You know, around the age of like 6 and 7 is when my life truly changed, and it really, really created this whole sort of narrative that leading up to my adulthood was just like these very deep traumas that nobody should ever have to go through. And the fact that I have continued to stay resilient is, I have to remind myself sometimes that, like, I have to remind myself sometimes that, like, it's okay that you've made mistakes and that you've fallen down these rabbit holes and gone into these really dark places that I never wanted to go, but I ended up going there because of the trauma and the things that I've experienced in my life, whether it was sexual abuse, emotional abuse, a lack of love, a lack of just emotional support, friendships. You know, I feel like I was so broken up over my life that I was not able to really connect with people properly. And that has been something that's been so, so difficult for so long. I remember being a young teenager, and I've been in therapy since I was around 7 or 8, was when I started going to therapy for the first time. And I was in and out of psychiatrists and um, different therapist office. I was on medications and all these different things. So, like, I have literally been in therapy for over 2 decades. And it, looking back on when I was like a young teenager and like trying to figure out, like, okay, why am I struggling? I was truly struggling with friendships. I was always upset with the fact that I didn't have good friends. And I realized it was because I wasn't able to connect with my peers on an emotional level because I had already gone through so many traumatic events in my life that I was broken and lost. And there was just so much emotional pain constantly running through my mind that for me to try to be able to connect with somebody else who wasn't going through that same pain, it was, or somebody who was at least old enough to be able to realize that I was going through pain. It was just like these blocks. And I always tried to find ways to like stay creative. And that's why like I loved going and being part of, you know, being around music and art, and cooking. And so like I really started to like connect with these things where while I wasn't able to have friendships, I had passions, and those passions became my friendships. And I also really loved connecting with animals and nature. So like I remember like there were so many times where like I just felt so lost, as a young teenager. And I had this dog, and I loved her. Her name was Sage. I ended up adopting her from a shelter that I would volunteer at. And she was my best friend. My dog was my best friend. And I would go and I would sit with her, and I'd grab my guitar, and I'd make her go sit out with me out in nature, and I would sing and play my guitar, and I'd sit with this dog. And I that was like my way of being able to process the things in my mind. And it's so crazy. I've been talking to some of my friends, like even nowadays, about my passion of music, and how music has always been something for me that was very healing. So for me to use music as a way to try to be successful has never been something that's on my mind. Like when I was a little kid, I was like, I want to be the next Hannah Montana. I want to be the next Lady Gaga. I want to do this, do that. But for me, I've realized that music has been something that is so personal to me, where I'm like, I'm not ready to yet share this with the world. And I've tried. I've tried to work with people to be able to put my music out there. And for me, I always felt this disconnect where I'm like, I'm not creating the music that I want, because I really truly want this music to be storytelling of my life and the things that I have gone through. And it's been really hard for me to be so truly open and honest with that. And that goes through like it, it's you know, I think it's so crazy because I feel like so many times people see the things that I'm doing. And I just had a friend tell me this the other night, and she's like, all the things that you've gone through, like the fact that you are able to stay so strong and be so confident. Like you've always had that confidence. And ever since I've met you and ever since I've known you, you've always just like been able to walk into a room and light it up. And I've always had that confidence. Even from a very young age, I've always had this very high confidence where I was always so sure of myself. I was the weird person. I was able to dress weird. I was able to like be express myself in ways that so many people can't. And I feel like for me, while I was unable to maybe have really deep connections with people when I was younger, I was always able to express exactly who I was and who I wanted to be. And unfortunately, I started to lose parts of myself when it came to dating and relationships and even my marriage. Like I started to lose that expression that I wanted, but I was still able to sort of have this confidence about me that would attract other people. And I think that that's something that, like, being able to recover quickly from these horrible experiences, and honestly, it's not even quickly, um, but it's able to be like staying strong and being able to find myself again. That staying resilient. And I feel like that's why it is the title of my book, because I felt like it was truly so strong of a word that if I had to put everything about me into one word to describe yourself, like, like sometimes when you're with groups of people, they're like, oh, what's something that you would say that would truly describe yourself? And I would say resilient, because the shit that I have gone through in my life is just completely insane, and nobody should ever have to go through those things. And it's so hard because sometimes I like try to put myself down about it, where I'm like, oh, well, somebody's got it off so much worse. I'm lucky that I didn't have kids in that marriage. Or, I'm lucky that I was able to find couches to go surf on and have a roof over my head at times. Or the fact that I, um, have a big family that truly does love me. I know sometimes I lack being able to see that or connect with that. But sometimes I put down my own traumas and make them seem like they're less because there's people that have it a lot worse. But then when I talk about my stories and the things that I've been through, and I try to tell people, they're shocked. And they're like, how are you able to even be who you are and create the things that you do? And how do you stay so strong? And it's like sometimes I have to hear things from other people to realize that, holy shit, I am strong. I am resilient. And I feel like that's almost part of the reason why, like, even writing this book has just been such a healing journey, because when I write down these things, I feel like I'm almost writing them about another person, that I'm like experiencing a life through them. And when I when I talk to other people or when I write, I feel like I'm talking about another person because I've disconnected so much from some of my traumas. Like, I know that they happened to me, but I feel like they didn't. And then I feel guilty about the fact that I sometimes feel this pity. I don't try to pity myself, but I try to be like, why are you not doing enough? And if you are on my Instagram page and you follow the things that I do on there, I started this little series of where I'm going to talk about like these little quotes, like very brief things. And that was one of the things that I had put up, where it's just like, you're not lazy, unmotivated, and whatever. It's that you've gone through these traumas. Well, and it was the first one that I put up, and it was because it like hit me so hard, where it's just like I constantly feel like I'm not doing good enough, that I'm not successful enough in my life. I'm not where I want to be. I'm drowning in credit card debt. I'm never going to pay off my student loans. I'm constantly feeling like I'm not putting enough out there, and I'm not being creative enough. I'm frustrated that I can't finish a painting. I'm frustrated that my book is still not finished. I'm frustrated about this. And then I'm like, oh my God, why are you so hard on yourself? I am truly my worst critic, and I know that every creative, and especially every student that went to art school and had to go through an art criticism class, or had to go through painting and drawing classes where you had to have people like look at your art and tell you that it's this and this and that. I learned to really take critiques from other people, and I do truly love it when people critique me. I don't like it when people are rude to me and just tell me that my work is crap, because, well, tell me why it's crap. And I'm always going to be my biggest critic. I look at everything that I create and do and be like, oh, it could be better. Oh, the lighting could have been better. Oh, I could have done my hair or my makeup better. And I've gotten to a point where I try to stop worrying about so much about what I'm putting out there and how it looks, and just putting it out there to be like, I've spent so many years refining the things that I've done, and I'm going to just put it out there because it needs to be heard. Like, my friend that I was talking to the other night, who was like really being supportive, and eventually she will be on as a guest. Um, and it was so nice to hear her like give me a compliment about the fact that she's like, I look at everything that you've been through, and I just truly find it like, so I forget exactly how she said it, but pretty much it was along the lines of like, I'm truly so proud of like the fact that you've been able to stay so strong through all of this and be so confident and such a a powerful woman that can just keep creating and doing these things. And I want you guys to know, like, when people tell me that what I'm doing means something to them, that's why I'm doing it. I'm doing this because I'm hoping that somebody out there is going to hear this and be like, "Oh my god, I feel heard, I feel seen." Because I've gone through all of this stuff on my own. And it's been so hard, and it's taken me so long to be able to sit here and be able to be comfortable and talk about this stuff. This has not been easy. The stuff that I have gone through has gotten me to the point where I have wanted to hurt myself. I've wanted to end my life. I've wanted to run away and hide. I've had days where I've sat in my, just laid in my bed and not moved, not done anything. I've just, like, I'm talking about to the lengths of not drinking water and not going to the bathroom for like a full day because I've been so depressed and so alone. And I hate that feeling of being so alone that you don't know what else to do other than just lay there and pity yourself and hope that a fucking supernatural fucking event happens that just takes you out in an instant so you don't have to fucking worry about life anymore because your bills are piling up and life is hard and fucking you don't have the motivation to be able to get up and want to go out and do something. I want that. I want this podcast to be able to reach people who are feeling that way. And I want to tell you that it's going to be okay. It's going to be fucking hard. It's going to hurt. It's going to make your bones and your body feel like horrible when you're going through processing trauma. Processing trauma is the hardest thing that you can do in your life. And so many people avoid it and create a world for themselves where they feel safe and happy, and it makes them survive. But I don't want to survive anymore. I want to fucking live. I want to live and be able to process everything and feel everything. I want to be able to feel emotions, the good, the bad, the ugly. I want to be able to feel all of those things and embrace them and take them in and be able to accept them and feel them in the way that I should. But because I've been through so much trauma in my life, that's blocked me from feeling things the way that, and I hate saying normal because no one's normal, but a person who hasn't been through what I've been through. And if you have never been through the things that I've been through, and you've been through more normal, natural experiences that are typical in life, and you're able to process things more normally without decades of therapy, then I'm so happy. I'm so happy for the people out there who haven't had to experience that. But unfortunately, so many people. Like, I don't know the actual percentage. I haven't done the research to look up the percentage of things. But I'm talking about, like, there's got to be about like 70 to 80, 85, 89% of people on this planet who have been through such horrible traumas that they are not able to process things normally. Like, I truly believe that that is how many people have experienced really bad things in their life: sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, manipulation, you know, not being able to be like, what do I want as a person? What are the things that I want as a person? And I feel like being able to take the things in your life that you've been through and processing them in a very healthy way through therapy, through time, through self-learning, self-growth, and just being able to be like, how does this thing make me feel? Do I want to feel like this anymore? And that's all part of staying resilient, is being able to process things in like this healthy way and learning from them and overcoming the things that have hurt you. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of times where I have used alcohol and sex as these coping mechanisms, where I'm like, I'm doing this thing because it makes me feel good, because I don't feel good, and I'm going to do this thing. And unfortunately, specifically those two things, alcohol and sex, have been huge parts of me traumatizing myself. I've already had men out there who have traumatized me with these things. And then my version of healing was going out and doing the same things that happened to me, but in my own way. So now suddenly I'm in control. So, oh, it's suddenly going to be better and give me a different result. No, I traumatized myself even more. So it's been sort of that like journey of being like, okay, well, now why don't I start trying to cut those things out of my life and use them in moderation and use them in ways that are healthy. I'm not going to go out and, you know, do that sexual act that I know is hurting me and I know doesn't feel good. And it's with a person who doesn't care about me and is never going to call me back or never talk to me again, or they don't care if something bad happens to me. Um, or, going out and drinking emotionally. I think I mentioned this in my first episode where I was just like, I need to stop drinking emotionally. I need to go out. And when I have a drink now, it's because I'm with friends and I want to have fun. And, I know my limit. And yeah, sometimes I might get a little drunk and I might get a little goofy and silly and stuff, but I'm not drinking where I'm trying to mask pain. And it's really just like, oh my God, like we get stuck in these routines of doing things that make us feel good, but they're actually hurting us more. And it's being able to get to a point where, oh my God, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to hurt like this. I don't want to wake up the next morning with these regrets and my body feeling torn apart from the mistakes of last night. And I just I want to learn how to love myself. And that's what this whole journey has been. Like, when I started writing this book back in 2022, I I I wrote the first 3 chapters of my book then. I think I didn't even finish writing the third chapter. But I wrote the first 3 and I had to stop because I realized that this was a rabbit hole that I was going down that was going to make me look at life in a very different way. And it was going to make me realize that I'm going to have to not do things that impulsively I want to do because they feel good in the moment, because they're going to hurt me. And I wasn't ready to do that. So I stopped writing. And then for all that time after, I continued to make very impulsive and bad decisions and, you know, had both sexual and emotional decisions that I made that weren't healthy for me. And I hurt myself more. I traumatized myself. And for some reason, I thought that maybe that was better than the trauma that other people had caused me. I was like, oh, let me go fucking traumatize myself because, well, now I'm the only one to blame. And I got so angry from blaming other people for issues in my life that suddenly I felt like if now I could blame myself, then maybe that was better. And then I could I honestly don't know what I thought. I think that I was just hurting so much that I was just doing impulsive decisions because I was like, wow, well, this feels good. And this feels good. And this feels good. And it got like on this high of, I mentioned before where it was like, oh, being selfish. And then I just was like, oh, this feels good. This feels good. And like selfish and greedy. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to hurt other people along the way and maybe traumatize them a little bit. And, not even necessarily meaning to, but looking back on it, I'm like, wow, I did that. And I'm not proud of the person that I was becoming. And um and like a little over a year ago was when it kind of all started to hit me. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If I want to be this advocate for mental health and, self-improvement and being the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, I need to make myself an example. And that hurt a part of me that wanted to be messy, where I was like, wow, I have to kill off this character personality and really truly heal. I think that sometimes people, like, when I see like Instagram reels and it's like people being like toxic, but it's meant to be in a comedic way, and people are just like, I don't have a very specific example on my mind right now, but there's like this whole toxic culture of being like, oh, be that toxic person, be that. And it like people, and it's funny and people laugh at it because it's meant to be humorous to sort of like when you mask trauma with humor, you're like trying to validate that what you're doing wrong or what somebody did wrong to you is now funny. So like you're going to laugh about your trauma. Um, and I realized that once I started truly healing, things like that made me uncomfortable. And there's a lot of things that I would normalize that I now realize are they make me uncomfortable, and I don't like being around people or um experiences or different things that where you're like, if you're normalizing a toxic behavior and trying to validate it because it's funny, I don't like it. It makes me really uncomfortable. And it's hard because sometimes you get wrapped into this thing where, because you've normalized it so much in your past, that when you set a boundary now, when you're around groups or people or even partners, and you're like, no, don't do that, it makes me uncomfortable. Now it's like, then you sort of get that guilt trip where it's like, well, what got up your butt? You used to be so fine with this. Or, oh my God, I'm just joking. And it's just like, I have to say that, like, one thing that I've learned through healing is healing is so lonely. But also is like not healing, because when you're not healed and you're constantly around fake people and people who don't understand you and people that you can't connect with, that's so lonely. But healing is almost lonelier, because then you realize that you build this, like, you have this tolerance where you're just like, I'm not going to tolerate that anymore. Or you just have these boundaries that you set, and then it becomes like, oh, should I just let this joke slide? Should I just let this thing happen? Should I let that person push another drink on me? Or should I do that or whatever when I've tried to set this boundary? So it's like it's so hard, and it's kind of like you have to wait for other people to heal to come back out the other end to be able to reconnect sometimes. And I think the whole point of starting this is so I can also hold myself accountable. And and you know, I think the thing is, this podcast truly means so much to me, because it's finally an accumulation of all the things that I've wanted to do. You know, I always loved being on camera. I really wanted to, I've had some um moments where I got into acting so I could, I wanted to see myself on a screen. I always loved singing because I wanted people to hear my voice. I always loved, like, I'm trying to write a book because I like to be able to tell a story. And I feel like what I'm trying to create with this podcast is a safe space, a narrative that is very different. I feel like this is different from a lot of different podcasts that I hear. And eventually I will have on guests where it's going to seem more like a normal podcast. But for me, this is really all about being able to tell a story and create a safe space and be able to inspire and lift up those who have been through experiences in their life where they're not able to find something to lift themselves up. And I so desperately sought out inspiration during my healing journey, trying to stay creative, trying to do things. I have started similar adventures with quite a few other people. You know, I've I've had different journeys with so many other people, and like I started with one of my good friends who eventually will be on the podcast as a guest. Him and a group of other people, and it's so funny. It was always guys, like for the most part. It was always me and a group of men. Me and this group of guys. There was like four four other guys that were involved, and we were going to all start like a YouTube channel. And it was, you know, it was going to be more on it was going to be talking about like fashion and all the different things that were happening in the capital region. And uh, we ended up going out and making one video, and nothing ever happened with it. We never continued. That got shut down. I eventually then met another group. And Sorry, I have ambulances in the background. um, I then started with another group, and we, same kind of thing. It was me and a group of like six guys. And Sorry, that ambulance is actually driving me wild right now. Then it was me and another group of guys, and I was the only female in the group, and it was, I believe it was six guys. Um, and that we tried to do the same thing where we wanted to like host these shows and make these creative things. And you know, I so desperately wanted to be one of the personalities that could be on camera, because I am like, wow, I feel like I'm really good at this. I really want to do this. I feel like I'm really passionate about this. And I kind of got shut down, and somebody else would be on camera. And then we did a couple of things. Nothing ever got released. And then I finally was able to be part of something that did get released. And then, you know, young people being stupid, and decisions and all these crazy things being thrown around, people being selfish, people not communicating properly. And I had a situation where something happened to me, and I came out to the group, and of course they're all guys. And you know, it was something that was I'll get into it in a later date, but I was shut down, not listened to, not heard. I ended up starting to make videos. I had one of the other guys help me, and I was like, hey, I really want to start making these videos talking about like my marriage and the things that I'm processing. And I ended up making this video, and shared it with the group, and they said it was too much. They're like, yeah, you're being too personal. This is a lot to put out there. I don't know if this is what you want to do. Um, Same video at the time where when I went to the guy that I was dating at that time and I showed him, he just looked at the video and said, you know what, people would watch this more. You could totally get more views if you were hotter, if you looked better. So it was like I was shut down from my group of friends because I was being too open emotional, and then shut down by my current boyfriend at the time because I wasn't sexy enough for the camera. So dreams just kept getting pushed down, and I realized, looking back at the footage that I created, because I still have a lot of it. And when I look back at it and the way that I presented myself in front of the camera and the way I talked, I was like, seem almost very scripted and very like uncomfortable and nervous. And looking back, I guess I'm kind of glad that certain things didn't get out there, because it was a little awkward, but also like, but it was honest. It was awkward, but it was honest. And then, so I then none of that really ever happened. And then I started a business with my now ex, and we started a YouTube channel together. And I really was excited about that. And things sort of fell on the wayside and never got posted, and things didn't happen. And we started a business together, and then that kind of fell apart. And then, you know, so it's like invested things into trying to find myself through other people. Specifically, for some reason, always men. Don't know why. Don't know why. And then, just trying to create, just trying to do things. And then I started up the podcast with my best friend Claire, and the two girls, one cat, and that was beautiful and made me started to realize that I could do this. Like I was like, I could really do this. I can finally do the thing that I want, which is this podcast. It's taken me years of things that didn't work to get here. Um, and I've had to really stay resilient this whole time and not stop. And I've tried, I've, I've tried a couple times to make the music dream happen. I don't think that's completely gone, but I think that my music needs to be something special and deep to me and something that's healing, and not create my music with people who are going to rip it away from me and create a very unsafe and toxic environment. So there's just so many different things that it's been like really, really hard for me to get here. So I want to let you guys all know that while you might be nervous to reach out to me and say something that you might want to say, I really do like it. Like, even my friends that I've sat down with me and they're like, oh, well, I know you don't need to hear this, but you're doing great. No, I do need to hear it. I absolutely need to hear it. Thank you so much for telling me, because this is so hard. I know that I may make this seem easy. I don't know if that's people's perception of it, but this is so hard. Um, it's taken me years to be able to get here, and it's taken so many trials and errors and moments where I was just like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I trying hard? What is the point of all of this? Should I just go do this thing and whatever? Should I just like forget it and forget it all and just, get a bartending job and forget the dreams of me being able to want to create? And I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. And I can't let myself stop. And that's why I'm doing this. And that's why I'm putting out an episode every week. So that way I can listen to that episode and listen to what I have to say and be like, I can't stop. And I hope it doesn't seem like I'm rambling. I sometimes feel like I'm rambling. But I'm I'm really excited to see where this goes. I'm really excited to see the person who I'm going to be in a year from now. I'm so happy that I'm on this healing journey, and I'm so happy that I have such an amazing group of friends. I've never had this many female friends in my life who truly love and care about me. And I'm building friendships with all kinds of new people, and I'm making connections and finally learning to set boundaries in my life that I never did before. And it makes me so proud of myself. And I want all of you to be proud of yourselves and the person that you are going to become. And it's not easy. And you may have hurt people. And it's okay to look back on your mistakes and say, I can do better. But until you have that realization and you have that moment, you're not going to start that new path, And if your thing is I'm going to just start going to the gym and I'm going to push hard, or I'm going to pick up a new craft and be creative, or I'm going to find this, so many people have different passions and different versions of healing. Nobody heals the same, It's like, you're going to still have scars, when you get an injury, or when you get a big cut on your body from falling or something. Those things turn into scars, and some scars kind of go away and some stay there. So it's just like, and that's the same thing with trauma. Some traumatic scars are going to be much bigger than others, and everybody's are going to look different, and everybody's going to have a different healing journey with that. So it's like, find what makes you happy. Look at your life even writing stuff down is great. And if you're not somebody who likes to write stuff down, sit in front of your camera and talk to yourself and then listen to that at a later date. I did so many times where I did that, where I sat in front of the camera and I talked and I talked and I talked. And then I was like, I'm just going to set this aside and I'm going to listen to it at a later date. I've come across so much of that footage from stuff that I recorded like 2, 3 years ago that I don't even remember recording, and sitting and listening to it again and just being like, oh my God, I've been wanting to do this for so long. And it truly feels amazing to finally be able to get to this point. And I'm so excited for this journey. And I thank everybody who is listening in, who is watching, who is reaching out to me and letting, giving me that encouragement and sort of that validation um, that I need, because we all want to be validated. We all want to feel heard. And for so many years, I wasn't heard because I was in my own head screaming for help, but wasn't able to verbalize it in an appropriate way that people could be like, oh my God, you need to be heard. So stay resilient, everybody. Remember to love yourselves and to find that appropriate and proper way to heal. I want to thank you guys all so much for coming and listening to this podcast today. I know that this was an interesting one, and I'm really, really excited for episode 4. I hope that you guys all have a lovely day. Thank you so much again. I'm Bethany Autumn, and this is the Bear All Podcast. Have a great day.